Hey, it's Jim Paar here, and I'm a car guy. I love vehicles. That's why I do these videos. But I'm going to talk to you about your social media policy and the reasons that you need a social media policy. You hear about things on social media. You've got employees in your dealership that are constantly posting every single day, and I'm going to ask you, have you checked those pages and see what they're offering? Having a social media account is more than just adding photos, videos, curating and collective effective content. Social media accounts develop, define, and test your brand's image and even the OEM's image. And an image that, if not handled efficiently, could change from good to bad to ugly in a matter of seriously seconds and affect your brand in a bad way. This video, though it's not meant to scare you, intimidate, or advise your dealership of having social media accounts, what it's offering is you advice, and however there might be some guidelines in which your store has to follow, but that includes the dealer having exclusive access and ownership to the employees' brand pages. I know this is not favorable, and some of the employees might get pissed off and not like this idea, but in fact, there has been a debate lately whether or not a dealership should have the right to own or even remove social media accounts of past employees. Employees that have curated content using the dealership's assets, likeness, and build a customer base. That customer base, while constructed by the employee, was built using the dealership's likeness, the brand image, the OEM, the inventory, the digital assets, whereas in other business models, there is a 1099 contracted employee who pays their own advertising costs, including steep membership and marketing costs for using the brand's image and likeness, including but not limited to the following strict guidelines in brand image manipulation, logo manipulation, and inventory placement. These are big things that you need to be aware of. If that does not get you squirming a bit, I don't know what's gonna. Here are the top reasons that your dealership needs to have a social media policy, and I'm going to say this multiple times because I'm not trying to scare you, but you need a policy for your social media because it's so big. Public image, employee branding versus company branding. Let's talk about this a little bit. So you got a guy, John Doe, he's a great guy. He's the kind of guy that everybody likes, and John has 2,700 plus followers on Twitter, with over 983 people talking about him. Who cares? John is off to an incredible start, and his customers are leaving rave reviews on John's page, sending him clients every single month. This all sounds incredible. No? Every dealer's dream come true, right? Free traffic, well, here's the deal. No, traffic is not free. There's no free traffic these days. Not to mention all the traffic that John has collected is not in possession of the dealership. Despite the fact that John used the dealership's likeness, assets, public image to promote himself to sell that brand. If he didn't have that, what is John? John's a nobody. So meanwhile, one day John gets involved in a public Twitter war where his words were not chosen wisely, and we've heard this. Despite the fact that John deleted the tweets, making his account private, the damage was already done to the dealership. Customers then start slowly disembarking themselves from wanting to be involved with your brand and John. So leaving you on the outs. Think this doesn't happen very often. How many celebrity endorsements have been damaged or have damaged brands? Think about it. Paula Deen, I could go on and on. There's one recently a makeup YouTuber that has 3 million people on her YouTube, countless social media deals. She made a racial comment on video when she was drunk, and her endorsements are gone. Sponsorships are gone. So there's two types of social media brand damage: company damage and wrong person handling the issue. Just this past month with the hurricane that went through Florida, a Florida dealer was the eye of a social media frenzy. Well, a storm actually, a physical storm and a social media storm. The dealer was accused of parking their vehicles in a Florida State University using their parking garages at FSU, and made a statement offering its students public access to their parking garages to seek shelter for the vehicles. With the number of vehicles parked in the garage from the dealership, not all students were able to secure their vehicles for the storm. This resulted in nasty 400 plus negative reviews spree, including hundreds of negative comments on the brand's image. So you can imagine what one review does, what 400 plus does, and I'm not going to say a dealership name here. And to make it worse, their response was not necessarily offering an apology, but rather their support for the school and being aware of being an issue. Despite there being two sides to every story, the brand was at the height of a social storm, and you know, the damage, you can imagine the damage and the aftermath of this damage. So instead of the dealership going and making an apology to the students, they made an apology to the school itself and offered a resolution or something to the school. Well, it's the students, it's the customer engagement, it's them that matters. You don't want to do this business-to-business aspect in social media. It's about engaging the person, the consumer. Now, just as I mentioned above, the person who handled the situation at the dealer level might not have been the owner, but he was one that made the decision, and a poor decision at that. However, because the public viewed him or her as the brand representative, and all the damage was reflected towards the dealer, not the employee who handled the situation. All that I have to say, regardless of whether the employee is branding their own page or managing the dealer's page of the content, whatever is posted, in most cases it's directly reflecting the brand's image. The other thing is data property. Who owns the data? The dealers are spending thousands and thousands of dollars monthly to promote their brands. And I know this firsthand. I see the amount that they spend on advertising every single month with the accounts that we handle. In the recent NADA studies, the customer acquisition costs were at an all-time high, costing them more than $650 per vehicle. And I'm telling you this, that I know what the customer acquisition was in previous months or previous years. It was about $300 a vehicle. With the cost at this all-time high, the employee brands, pages, and customers of their dealership is so important right now. The dealer is paying for the image, the likeness, the inventory, and most importantly, the liability of those pages. With that said, think about it. As I mentioned with the 1099 companies, business models such as Mary Kay, Avon, Remax, Plexus, they require their subcontractors to use their sites. And beyond the website, they are also required to use a social media guideline. In addition, sign a social media policy, and likely having to pay a royalty fee for their public image likeness, which is a result to acquiring new customers. So it's something to be considered. Just as a beautician leases a spot in a salon, they use that salon assets to promote themselves. Same if a salesman is promoting themselves in your dealership. While I can sympathize with the employee whose efforts are there, like the ones that creating their own brand pages, because that's great for a dealer, the fact still remains, if it weren't for the dealer's inventory, image, brand, assets, whatever, in most cases, they couldn't afford to acquire these new customers. Not to mention manage and pay for the floor plan, substantiating steep cost of managing millions of dollars of inventory. It's crazy. I mean, the other thing that I want to talk to you about is the OEM compliance, because it's huge. We know what an OEM requires, and more often than not, people do not understand just how much involved it is when it comes to creating, developing, curating content that is OEM compliant. Everything from the fonts, images, logos, pricing, disclaimers that have specific credentials, even the way the paint, the color. I work with Chevrolet, I work with Dodge, I work with Toyota, Mercedes, Range Rover. They all have their OEM specs for painting a dealership on the inside, how it's decorated, what the employees put on their desk. And if your employee who is managing their own page does not give the dealer access, it opens up a can of worms regarding the brand. Let's go back to John Doe. He decides he wants to build some weekend business, offering a coupon, no harm, no foul, a coupon off the already low internet price for both new and used. Unbeknownst to John, the OEM states that it's offering a coupon on the sale of a new vehicle, and the coupon has to be MSRP, off the MSRP, not the internet price. Ta-da! There's John again. The OEM flags the ad, and before you know it, you receive a strike. And whatever that fine is or the processing is for your OEM failing to comply, I know there was some compliance issues on a legal standpoint in the Southeast with dealers on the size of the font of the disclaimer, and they were handing out $150,000 fines. Can you imagine? You know, yet you were unaware. Now imagine if your brand only allotted just 3 strikes and you're receiving 3 strikes meant that you were eligible or weren't eligible for the brand program. So you're not going to get your SCF money, and you have to potentially lose hundreds of thousands of dollars as you were not aware of the branding going on regarding private social media accounts. So if that does not have your attention, I'm not sure what else is gonna. Here's another thing, the bottom line. The bottom line is that while you're not wanting to discourage the use of social media, because I do encourage it a lot, social media is the thing that is going to build your business and get you acquisitions and customers on a cheaper basis. But there has to be a clear, concise policy that is tailored to your brand that will ensure the protection of your brand's image and the OEM's image while promoting it on a healthy, stable, but effective way. Not having standard guidelines other than ethical guidelines, which includes but not limited to acts of racism and sexual harassment. There are other things that you need to consider about a controversial brand and you might not support, but your employee still likes, supports the brand on his or her page, which still reflects your brand. That alone can be quite controversial. So I encourage you to check out what's being said about your brand, not just on your store's page, but on pages that are using your brand. There's a way to check that. See what the mentions are on Facebook. You can go to the mentions. I am confident that you're going to be shocked and see how many pages and social media accounts that are out there that you were completely aware of, and that includes former employees who might still be acquiring customers from your brand. who handles your offboarding process. So how do you handle your social media at your store? Do you allow employees to have and manage their own accounts? If so, what guidelines and policies have you implemented? I want to hear your comments. I want you to leave a comment below, leave your questions below, because I want to help you with this. I do not want to see your dealership suffer from simple policies that could be put in place, but you need to get a handle on it. Social media is going crazy. There's so many different channels, there's so many different platforms. If you don't handle it now, it's going to be out of control, it's going to be a wildfire, and you don't want a social media storm. Again, subscribe to my channel. I do a lot of automotive videos for dealerships of everything. Like this video, share it with your friends, share it with your employees, share it with the management, whatever. Again, leave your comments.